Hello, welcome back to the Wee Larder channel. I hope you're all doing fine. Today I'm going to be starting my new video series. I think it's going to be called Cook With Me or Cooking With Me or something like that. It's basically a lifestyle kind of series of videos that I want to create just to get all the knowledge out of my brain that I've built up over the years in the kitchen to do with things like meal planning, shopping for food, where I source my food, the kind of foods we eat, the staple recipes that I use in my kitchen, and all of the ingredients that I use as well, and how I buy them and store them and stuff like that. So it's basically a series of videos that I would sort of in the future love for my kids to see, to help them in the kitchen and to help them with their own families and stuff. So I hope it inspires you in some way. Today I'm going to be starting with monthly meal planning. It sounds a little extreme, I know, but we have been monthly meal planning and food shopping for quite some time, and it really helps us out in the kitchen. Now, we don't always do it. Sometimes we go back to weekly food shopping, but then I always seem to go back to monthly food shopping because it just really works for us. It really works for our location, and it just helps us save time. It helps us save money. We save on food waste this way, and it's just really good not having to go to the supermarket 4 times like in the month, like once a week. I really enjoy only going the once, and I usually send my husband off with the list to go mid-month. So we usually have a massive bulk shop at the start of the month, and then we'll have a top-up shop in the middle. So you might be wondering how on earth we manage to shop for everything at once and make that last for the entire month. So there are a few things that we do. So we use a chest freezer, and we do store extra vegetables and fruits in there. We store all of our meats in there, any extra bread that we've bought for the following weeks, and we used to store milk in our freezer as well. You can do that, but we had a few milk explosions so we don't tend to do that now. We usually just pop into the local shop to get milk, or we just use milk from our larder cupboard, from our food storage if we are really short. So we have some milk that's in the cupboard that we can use as well. So we do store some things in our freezer, and then our top-up shop in the middle is for things like fresh soft berries and things like that. We try to shop as seasonal as possible, but there are very little fruits available, especially at this time of year. There's pretty much nothing. So we like to use our frozen fruits from the summer at this time of year, and also some frozen bags of fruits that we buy in from the supermarket. So not everything is seasonal. We try to buy as seasonal as possible, but it's just not always possible if you want to get fruits into your body this time of year. So so the fundamentals of our food shopping is based around organic whole foods. That's just the way I've always shopped. I've always shopped for organic food where possible. I do like to buy locally as well, so we do get our meat and our lamb and our pork now as well locally, so they are very local to us. One of them is literally over the river from us, and the other one is a few miles down the road, so we know. So that's where we get our meats from. I do buy our chicken online, which comes from Piper's Farm. I'll put a link down below for that. I found them to be a really good source, especially for chicken carcasses, which are really cheap. They're organic, free range, all that good stuff. And they just have a really nice flavour as well, and really nice texture of meat as well. So we tend to buy our chicken from there. I have been looking for something similar up in Scotland, so we don't have so many food miles for it getting shipped, but we don't buy it very often. We tend to buy in bulk when we're buying from there and just fill our freezer with it. So we use our chicken carcasses and stuff for making bone broth. So I'll talk a little bit more about that further down. I'm just looking at my notes here if you see me looking over at the side. So this is going to be quite a long video actually, so grab a cup of tea, some home bakes, whatever you have available, and have a seat. So although we shop for organic whole foods, we are definitely not perfect in the kitchen. We enjoy takeaways from time to time. We have pizza, we have ready meals when we are having an emergency supper night. We do all of those things as well. We have chocolate and biscuits and all sorts of things. So we're not perfect in the kitchen, so please don't think because I mentioned the organic whole food thing that we are by any means perfect in the kitchen. We are not. But that is what I try to buy when I'm shopping, and so I try to buy organic as much as possible, and there's lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that, but it's just how I've shopped for the last like 20 years, so it's just kind of how I do it. So this might not work for you, but I'm sure you'll find some inspiration for your own meal planning in this video. You could also sort of change it up and do your food planning every 2 weeks, or even just do it every week if you want to as well. So you might find some ideas on how we're doing ours and take that into your own meal planning as well. Well, I hope so anyway. So we tend to shop once at the start of the month for our bulk items, and then we have a top-up shop in the middle of the month for things like soft fruits and anything else that we need, like milk and maybe some yogurt as well, because the yogurt doesn't tend to last like the whole month. I've actually been trying to make my own yogurt, so that's probably going to be on as one of my staple recipes soon actually. I have made kefir yogurt in the past with my kefir milk, but I haven't made yogurt just from whole milk before, so I'm going to try and do that in the future. So there's a few cookbooks that I absolutely love using for my meal planning. They're kind of based on traditional cooking as well. Sally Fallon's cookbook is my favourite cookbook, and I also love the Trim Healthy Table, I think it's called, cookbook. It's one of my favourites as well, and I have a really nice soups cookbook. So I'm sure you've probably seen my cookbook shelves before in other videos, but I have absolutely hundreds of cookbooks. I have cookbooks in the kitchen, I've got cookbooks up on my landing, I've got cookbooks in my bedroom. In fact, my husband tends to get a little bit annoyed the amount of cookbooks I have all over the house, and my head is always in a cookbook. So I'm never short of cookbooks for finding recipes and stuff like that, but I do stick to my favourites for my meal planning for some reason. And then some of the recipes are just either in my head or they're on my website as well. So I like to use my website for some of my stews and stuff like that, but a lot of the recipes on there I've made so many times that I just know how to make them anyway. But if you're looking for recipes, most of them are traditionally based as well. You'll find them over on my website. I'll put a link as always down below for that. So I don't use any fancy equipment, just a notebook and pen. You do get really fancy like meal planner books and stuff like that. I don't use any of that. I just use one meal planner sheet on the fridge, which I try to remember to fill out every week, but I usually just go back to referring to my notebook. I take, well, my planner, so I take all my meals from my notebook and put them into my planner when they're all written out, and we tend to choose our breakfasts, our lunches and our dinners for the month as well. So most hard fruits like apples, pears, your oranges and stuff like that, they do tend to last like 2+ weeks. We usually need to top up like week 2, but your soft fruits are always going to be used in the first week, and then any other soft fruits like that we usually use from the freezer. To be honest, most of the time I like to have my fruit warm in the winter, so we're in the winter months just now still. About to head into March, but I don't really call March as the start of spring here. It's more like April, May. We're still kind of cold here just now, so we tend to heat up our fruits and stuff in the winter and have them. So I like to keep our breakfast as warm as possible. We don't tend to have many smoothies in the colder months, and if we do, I usually keep the blender running, so they are warm smoothies. We usually have warm breakfasts for the winter months. So what we do is we choose 5 breakfasts and we just repeat that for the 4 weeks. So it might sound a little bit repetitive having the same breakfast for each day. Well, we don't assign our meals to specific days as well. That's something I should probably mention. So we write down our 5 breakfasts and then we just choose what we're having on whatever day we feel like it. Because I just find it doesn't really work if we write down like Monday we're going to have eggs on toast, Tuesday we're going to have yogurt with granola. I always just chop and change them. So I just write down 5 and we just choose whatever day we're going to have them on. Hope that makes sense. And so for the winter months we will choose like warm breakfasts like eggs on toast. We eat a lot of eggs actually because we have our own hens as well, and we do tend to eat quite a lot of eggs. And when we're cooking eggy breakfasts, we use a lot of eggs at the same time as well because there's so many of us. So we like to make things like baked oatmeal, porridge, stuff like that in the colder months. I'll show you an example of our meal plan for this month at the end of the video as well, so if you want some ideas, you'll find some there. For our lunches in the winter months, I usually choose 2 soups and we just make that last for the week. We usually have sandwiches or toasties alongside that. There's always bread and there's always sandwich fillings in the fridge as well. So we might have leftover chicken as well, or there might just be leftovers from the night before that we will use for lunch as well. So soups are our main the main recipe that I write down for the lunches. So I choose 2 soups per week. And you could make these ahead of time as well. You could literally make all 8 soups and put them in your freezer if you had space, and then you would be sorted for your entire month. I hope to do some make ahead meal videos in the future, and I hope to do more of that in my family kitchen as well. It's not something I do much of just now. I think just because I'm so busy, I don't actually even have the time to do the make ahead meals to save me time in the future. But anyway, that's something that I hope to do in the future. So we've got our 2 lunches, our 5 breakfasts, and then we have, I write down 6 family meals for each week. So I tend to have one of those meals is always a roast dinner, so that's always for the Sunday, or sometimes we have it on the Saturday if we know we're going to be out on the Sunday, but it's mostly for the Sunday. And then I use any leftover bones from that roast dinner to make bone broth on the Monday, and then use that for the soups for the week. So I love bone broth. I don't tend to use stock cubes in my kitchen. I always use bone broth if I've got it in the fridge. I mean, sometimes I don't, and I do have stock cubes just as a backup, but I love to use bone broth. It's so much flavour and it's so nutritious as well. There's lots of information about it online, and the nutritional info online as well. So it's something that we've added into our diets many years ago, and we've just kind of stuck with it. So I use bone broth for making things during the week. It's like the soups, and I also use it for like stir frying vegetables, for making stews. I use it in many things. So that's our Sunday roast dinner. So we have 5 remaining meals to plan. I usually plan 1 fish night because we always get fish on a Tuesday from the fish van. And I usually I usually mix up the other nights with like different proteins. So chicken, beef, we sometimes use venison, and sometimes pork as well. We don't actually eat pork, I would say, every week. It's not our favorite meat. We do enjoy it, but it's not something that we have all the time. We usually stick to beef, chicken, lamb as well, so we get our lamb locally too. So we try to have a different protein every week. We don't eat massive amounts of meat. We cook up sort of reasonably sized portions of meat, and we have lots of vegetables with it as well, usually in our meals. So a lot of our meals in the winter time are like stews and really warm and things like stir fries and stuff. And really easy as well. I like to keep our meals really simple. Nothing's like overly complicated during the week, and sometimes I don't tend to plan for like snacks and things because I usually have things left over from cooking for the Wee Larder for you guys. So I usually have like home bakes and stuff left over. Sometimes I'm even cooking up savoury dishes and I'll end up having those for my lunch. So there's always food going around in the kitchen here, and we really try hard not to waste any. So another 2 things I like to add into my meal plan is 2 fermented recipes. So I like to do 2 fermented recipes every month. If I'm not in the mood for making a ferment, or I know I'm going to be really busy, I will buy in sauerkraut or from our one of the local shops down in Huntly. They do really nice sauerkraut. It's actually my favourite brand as well. So and we tend to drink kombucha and stuff as well if we can get it. So I'd love to include fermented foods in all of our meals, but it's not something I remember to do all the time. I do love sauerkraut though. It's one of my favourites. I like to include kefir in our breakfast. So all of our breakfast meals, I like to try and remember to serve them with kefir and fruit. That's something we just add on to our meal plan, so they're all served with that. So if we're having eggs on toast, I like to have a piece of fruit and some kefir with it as well. So I'm big on my fermented foods. I like to add in fermented foods where I can, and there's lots of information online about the nutritional elements of fermented foods and how beneficial they are for your gut health and things, and so you can go and Google and find out those for yourself, because I'm not really the person to go into that, but yeah, so I like to do ferment. So sometimes we have kefir milk on the go. In the summer, I love kefir water. It's really, really delicious. It's made with the kefir grains as well, but we make like a fizzy drink with it. It's really nice. Do have my own kombucha equipment and ferment ready to go to make my own kombucha, but it's just a bit time consuming for me at the moment, so I don't actually have time. So I usually buy my kombucha just now. Other ferments we've tried in the past are a really nice beetroot drink with kefir. That was lovely. We made a lovely fermented chili sauce. There's loads of recipes that I would like to try, so hopefully we can do those together on my channel further down the line. And finally, treats like sweets and puddings and things like that. Well, we don't tend to buy in any puddings. That's just something that we never really purchase. because there's always something on the go here, or something we can use as a pudding. If it's like a leftover piece of cake or something, we can just whip up some custard and serve that as a pudding. But it's not really something that we usually have every night. I usually just have a little piece of chocolate, or there's always chocolate in my house, which is probably not a good thing really. We still have lots of chocolate from Christmas time, and now Easter's coming up as well. Valentine's, there was chocolate. Anniversary was recently, so there was chocolate. So we don't tend to buy things in our food shop, but there always seems to be chocolate around the house. So we do have treats in moderation as well. So I hope that this has given you some inspiration into you and ideas that you can use in your own meal planning. And I hope you feel inspired to start your own monthly meal shopping as well. I will be putting up a food haul of my whole monthly food shop very soon, probably not the next video but the video after. I will share that with you, and then you can see everything that I'm buying in for the month. And I forgot to mention as well, we do budget our money for our monthly food shop as well, so it is part of like our home budget. So we have our food budget, and then we split that up. So we have our bulk of the money goes to the supermarket, unfortunately. We do sort of take a chunk of that and buy some bulk items in every month. So about £50 to £100 we are buying items in bulk. So things like flour, sugar, oats, pasta and rice, we tend to buy in bulk online. We sometimes buy in toiletries as well, so that's also part of our monthly food plan, but I'm not really going to go into that and what we buy for toiletries and stuff. But we sometimes buy some of our toiletries like toothpaste, toilet rolls and stuff in bulk too. So we sometimes so we split up some of our money to spend on bulk items, and we also take some of our money to spend locally for our meats, and we also buy some things online, some supplements and stuff on Amazon, things like ghee and stuff I find really difficult, and sometimes I use that in my cooking. So I buy that online, and we also buy our cheese online as well. So we get our cheese, or we have been recently getting our cheese from the Isle of Mull. I absolutely love their cheese. It's made with raw milk. It's really delicious. A really nice traditional farmhouse cheese flavour as well. And I like to buy their blue cheese as well, and so I buy the cheddar in a huge pack. It costs me about £15 for the cheddar. It literally lasts me like 4.5 weeks. It just seems to go on forever. It's a huge piece of cheese, so it probably works out cheaper than buying it from the supermarket. And the blue cheese I still have in the fridge, and that's like 4.5 weeks ago, and it's still okay as well. At least I hope so. And I also tend to buy a small piece of smoked cheese from them too. So we do buy our cheese online, but as I've said, the most of the stuff comes from the supermarket, and we just have our things that we buy locally as well. So I will share with you in the future the things that I buy locally. I'll do a few foodie hauls from sharing some of the items that I buy. And I know when I put the links down in the description box below, they're not going to apply to everybody. They'll only be available to local people. But it might give you some ideas to go out and find some sources of your own for items like your beef and your chicken and venison and fish, whatever. It might give you some ideas to go and find your own suppliers for those things, because it's nice not to throw all of our money into the supermarket, isn't it? And it's nice to support smaller businesses as well. I did actually find a really good source for my bread as well the other day, actually, in Inverurie at the greengrocer. I got an amazing focaccia from them. So it's nice to shop around and find independent people to purchase from, and I always find their stuff's nicer as well. I have actually got a bread machine, and I have been trying to make my own sourdough as well, so that's something I'm hoping to share in the future when I actually successfully manage to make a sourdough. Our kitchen is really cold in the winter, and we really struggle with ferments in the winter, so that's another reason I buy some of our fermented foods in during the winter months, because it just gets really cold here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, I'm going to be doing my monthly meal plan a couple of videos down the line, and I hope it's giving you some ideas for your own monthly meal plan and shopping. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever tried monthly food shopping, meal planning, if it's been a success, if it was a disaster. I'd love to hear from you, or if you have any tips on monthly meal planning, please feel free to pop them in the comments below. I'm always looking for new ideas and stuff as well. And I also hope to share some meal prep style videos in the future, so maybe we could make ahead all of those soups for the month, and maybe some of the breakfast meals as well. We could make those ahead and put them in the freezer too. I'm always trying to make things easier for myself in the kitchen because I'm just so busy all the time making videos for you guys and doing all sorts of other things with the kids and just running around everywhere. So always try to make things a little bit easier in the kitchen, and I look forward to sharing that with you all. So thanks for watching. I hope nobody's fallen asleep. And if you have any tips, if you're weekly meal planning and you have any tips on your meal planning and you'd like to share those below, drop me a comment below. Let's get some chat going. I love to hear where you're all from and chat to you all, and just pick up all your tips and just thanks for all your comments as well in the past. They've always been so kind. Well, there have been a few grumpy ones, but the majority, 99% of them, are always so lovely, and I really, really appreciate it. So if you're over on Instagram as well, pop over and say hi. And I do share a lot of my stories too, so I'll tend to share on my stories when I'm buying things locally and stuff as well. So pop over and say hello, send me a message, say you've popped over from YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed, please feel free to click the subscribe button, and don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up as well. If you click the little bell next to it, I will see you guys again soon. So take care, thanks a lot for watching, lots of love, bye bye.